Hey guys, welcome into another episode of Bring the Juice. Guys, this is the Mock Draft 2.0 here. Got my guy Alex back from Hail Mary Sports again. Alex, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. I'm excited. Excited to do this again.
Yes. Yes, obviously we did the Mock Draft 1.0 pre-free agency, some trades the Colts have had. A lot, obviously, has happened since then. Most notably, obviously, Yannick Ngakoue trade, Matt Ryan, and then most recently, Stephon Gilmore. 3 big moves for the Colts this offseason. And like we said, in the earlier mock draft, free agency was going to change a lot in terms of mock drafts. So, man, the Colts within this Carson Wentz trade that they acquired another pick this year, and they also got a better second-round pick this year as well. They swapped that with the Washington Commanders. So the Colts will not be picking in the first round still, obviously, but they will be having a little bit of a better pick in that second round. So I figured, man, without further ado, we could just start this first round here and just go from there. Tell me what your thoughts are, though, man, as we're starting here on the Colts moves this offseason.
So here, I'll start the draft right now anyways. Let's just pray to God that nothing crazy happens. But I mean, honestly, when you look at what they did, first off, I got scared the living daylights out of me when I saw Rock Ya-Sin end up being traded because we already had lacked the legitimate corner depth anyways. But Stephon Gilmore can't complain in retrospect. And continuing to, we got the rings. That's okay. But to me, honestly, when you add in the factor that this is going to be amazing, it's going to be like the best thing ever, right? But when you add in that you now have a bona fide corner one, you also have a bona fide pass rusher who is going to be an edge one who can train up those 2 rookies. Like, that is going to be a world difference, not in the short run, but in the long. And if you want to win the short run, you're going to have to be able to work out with a number 1 corner and a number 1 edge rusher. Then bringing in Matt Ryan kind of helps that. So I think I know exactly where we should be starting to focus this pick on. I think that's a wide receiver position, but you can correct me if you think otherwise.
No, I 100% agree. I think it's almost guaranteed, unless they trade out of this pick, that they got to go wide receiver because they literally have not addressed it at all. They lost presumably T.Y. Hilton. He hasn't been re-signed, although he could be re-signed. They lost Zach Pascal to the Eagles, and they haven't done anything in free agency. There still are potentially a few names, Julio Jones, Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham still out there, but those guys are going to cost a pretty penny, especially, the latter two. But I do think wide receiver, especially, man, with how the market has been reset at wide receiver contracts right now. Thank you, Jacksonville, for that. I think it's honestly kind of wise that the Colts kind of waited it out at wide receiver because the market right now is just insane when it comes to that position, man.
Yeah, totally agree. I will just bring in this one point. Left tackle, I still, again, you can push back on this, still a vacancy, and Bernhard Raimann probably should not be here.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I honestly think it's going to come down to wide receiver, left tackle, the best player available between those 2 positions. I think it's got to.
Yeah. And I love these, like Christian Watson, George Pickens on the squad. I love them to death. But I'd feel a lot more comfortable personally with Alec Pierce or Wan'Dale Robinson and Bernhard Raimann than even best case scenario, Nicholas Petit-Frere and George Pickens. I'll just say that, especially with Matt Ryan being older. So you fine with me selecting Bernhard Raimann here?
Absolutely. I mean, left tackle, you have Matt Pryor, who you re-signed, but he's played, I don't even know if he's had a start at left tackle in his career. So he could be good, could not, but definitely adding competition. I like that a lot. I think you go BPA here between those 2 positions and you just you keep rolling because
I definitely agree.
I mean, in this wide receiver class, from everything that I've heard, it's super deep. So there's going to be some quality guys in round 3 and beyond, I think. So.
Do you hear this every single time? It's like it's a new trade. It's ridiculous.
It's amazing. People really want to trade with us right now.
I know. Is it a Colts thing to continuously trade up?
I know. They've traded up for a couple guys, right? Jonathan Taylor a couple years ago and Kari Willis a number of years ago. And do you see a scenario, though? Let me ask you that. I know we already picked, but at that second round pick, do you see a scenario of them trading up or trading back, and which do you think is probably more likely there?
More likely to trade up. Like when you have an old quarterback, it's pretty obvious that if you want to win now, you're going to have to make a move to win now. So I'd rather do that. Personally, I mean, I don't know if exactly Matt Ryan will get you over the hump in the AFC given the new quarterback talent that's there. But I mean, if you really want to give it its best shot, best thing you can do is sacrifice one of your picks that you've earned in that Carson Wentz trade.
Yeah.
So
Now,
that's
what
it.
position would you be comfortable? I mean, obviously quarterback, but is there another position you'd be comfortable if, say, a guy's sitting there in the late first round or something, you trade up and get him?
I mean, if you want to get like a scheme fit, even like Trent McDuffie potentially falling maybe to like 32 or something like that, you can make a
Mm.
trade up with the Lions instantly. Not that far of a trade back for the Lions. And then it honestly isn't a very expensive trade up. And he's a perfect scheme fit for you guys, has some really damn good zone instincts. I think he'd be a pretty damn good fit.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so we're here in the third round pick. We've already addressed left tackle.
Yes.
Who are some wide receivers potentially here on the board?
So
Still
Jalen
available?
Tolbert is my number 46 guy on my board. I
Okay.
definitely think that he could be a really nice complement to Michael Pittman. Again, Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be more your like shifty guy that you can basically use in a nifty role, but I think Nyheim Hines is good enough at that personally. And then my
Mhm.
number 5 receiver overall in Alec Pierce is an absolute stud. So we got options here. But I will say
Okay.
this. I will say this. We have Trey McBride on the board. I know that we
Okay.
addressed tight end pretty much by re-signing Mo Alley Cox, but that's a true tight end one there.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
I mean, yeah, they lost Jack Doyle to retirement, so
Mhm.
I could see a scenario where people think wide receiver, they take tight end. I mean, they need in my opinion. Obviously, I want wide receivers,
Mhm.
but you just need to get Matt Ryan weapons at this point and
Yep.
also protection.
Mhm.
So, if there's a better player at tight end than wide receiver, I'm 100% on board for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and
You
when's our
know,
next pick, by the way? Is we have a second, third round pick, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
they did. They traded away that one away. That was the original third round pick for Matt Ryan. So,
Oh, there we go. I was wondering.
yeah. It's
So,
crazy to me, man,
yeah,
because and this is just obviously the Colts, we can all admit Carson Wentz trade didn't pan out for them.
yeah,
But I will say this, their recovery from that is incredible.
yeah.
The fact that you were able to obviously get, a better second round pick, another third round pick, and potentially another second round pick next year.
Mhm.
And by the way, you don't have to touch his contract because Washington took the full
The
contract.
full
I
one.
mean, that's amazing to me. I don't know how they did that, honestly.
I don't either. Both
It's
sides, I
amazing.
think, won in their own right because Washington was stuck between Kenny Pickett and that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, again, both of them had their own merits there. I'll say this. I don't know, I don't know the chances of Alec Pierce being there at the next spot, but I do know that there's probably going to be a good enough tight end at the next spot, even if it's Jelani Woods. I mean,
Okay.
hell, worst case scenario, we can spend a late round flyer on Jalen Weidermeyer because of what he was 2 years ago. So
Sure.
I think going wide receiver might be the best move here. I like
Okay.
Alec Pierce, but I do think Jalen Tolbert might be the more attractive option given that he was somebody who really bailed out his own quarterback there at South Alabama.
Hmm.
But again, it's really based on the simulator. It's kind of what we have the glory of doing here. You can choose whoever the hell you want. So,
Well,
like,
I didn't know if you had a recommendation that you think would fit well with Matt Ryan and kind of the receivers that he's used before, the receivers
yeah.
he likes, and the guys that seem to work well with their system. So I
Mm.
didn't know if you had any thoughts on that.
So again, you look at Matt Ryan, he obviously Julio Jones was pretty much his bread and butter for quite a while. And that's somebody who was large, had some really damn good route running skills, was able to go up and high point the catch. To me, I mean, again, this is a very, very weak comparison, but Alec Pierce fits that mold a little bit better.
Okay, let's do that then.
Yeah, we'll fit that. We'll do that. We'll go back to the predictive board here and go Alec Pierce out of
Okay.
Cincinnati. Wanted to show off my board there because he is number 25 on my overall big board. That's how much I
Okay.
like
Wow.
him. Like big fan,
Yeah.
big fan of
Yeah. I
him.
know Derek's a big fan of him too. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like
I like him. I think that's pretty good value at the third round for sure.
absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I just dropped a 7 round mock draft. By the way, that takes literally 10 to 15 hours to do. Ridiculous.
Wow.
So if you ever see a 7 round mock draft, just know the amount of work that went into that.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah, I have mass respect for you guys who do all this draft stuff because
Thank
I
you.
can't imagine the countless hours you spend on this. Like seriously.
It it is a lot, I will admit. But
Yeah.
since we're here, Jelani Woods is on the board. Scored 10.0 on his RAS score, which is the best tight end raw athletic score of all time. Guy
Wow.
is ridiculous. ridiculous as an athlete. I believe he was a 4.6 140 at like 6'8", like
Jeez.
6'7". Like, guy's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Definitely would be someone if you want to potentially replace Jack Doyle. That's a place to go. Jalen Armour Davis is someone that you could be potentially grabbing as like kind of an understudy to Stephon Gilmore. Kobe
Mhm.
Bryant's in there as well. Obviously won the best DB award incorrectly, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Those are pretty much the options in my mind, though.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we haven't addressed tight end, so I think that could potentially be an option here on the board,
Yeah,
especially talking about if he's still there, Jelani Woods. I think that's the option.
I think so too. And
Okay.
it feels like a Mo Alley Cox thing to do. I feel like it's that one of those dudes that isn't exactly extremely highly touted out of college, but he's going to produce. Like,
Yeah.
I know Mo Alley Cox sure as hell wasn't a first round pick, but he's
Right.
balling the F out, and he just got a nice contract to support that. So definitely like the upside from our pick right there with Jelani Woods.
Okay. And this is how I kind of thought it might play out, is
Yeah.
like you've addressed defense, honestly, outside of some depth things, which you can always address later in the draft or in free agency.
Yep.
I was hoping the first 3 picks, the Colts would go all offense. And so far we have, and
Yep.
that's the hope I have. And now I think maybe these later round picks, I honestly think maybe like a DB, because Chris Ballard's actually had some pretty good luck at finding DBs. A couple of years ago,
yeah.
he found Isaiah Rodgers in the 6th round out of
Mhm.
UMass. So he has this talent for drafting linebackers and DBs like really well later on in the draft. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is, but he's done a really good job of doing that.
Mm.
It's crazy to me, man, because like the guys that Ballard has drafted that have become impact players, I think none of them have been in the 1st round. Like I know Rocky Sin was probably the closest, an early 2nd round pick, but you talk about Kenny Moore, undrafted free agent. You talk about Isaiah Rodgers, 6th round pick, Corey Willis, 4th round pick, Julian Blackman, 3rd round pick. And even guys like, Bobby Okereke was a 3rd round pick.
Yep.
Darius Leonard was a 2nd round pick. So he can find guys in those mid to late rounds for sure. I mean, I think that's been, give Ballard all the flack you want at times. He deserves some of it. But I will say one thing that he does very well is he, for whatever reason, can find linebackers and DBs extremely well.
Yeah. It's definitely the lifeblood of the Colts is sniping those dudes out of the 1st round.
Yeah.
But
absolutely. All right, what we got here?
So with this pick, I don't really like much of the value that's on the board. Jalen Watson's interesting because I think he's been on like 7 top 30 visits. Guy is actually like a freaky like 6'2" to 6'4", depending on whichever measurement you look at. And he's a really good press corner. Don't exactly think that's the best move for a team that, I mean, again, prove me wrong otherwise. I think that you still could upgrade as maybe a 3rd corner in rotation there, especially considering injuries. So someone like Tariq Castro Fields is someone who I really like. He's been a great talent at Penn State for a while, but he had, I believe, a freak ACL injury that pushed him back in 2020. But he came back this year and performed at quite a high level.
Okay. Would you say he's a guy, because this is kind of the tendency Ballard likes to go in these later rounds, mid to later rounds, is a guy with like some blue chip talent in some area. Like Isaiah Rodgers, it was speed.
Yeah.
With EJ Speed, it was a little bit of everything. He had some speed, he had some length, he has a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Would you say that this player you just mentioned, would you say he has anything that's like elite, like an elite trait or something?
I'm checking out his RAS score, like what his testing numbers are exactly right now. But nothing pops off to me as like something very unique. So Jalen Watson would fit that bill a little bit more. Somebody's a bit more of a freaky athlete at his size. So that's definitely something that he's more interested in. Then that'd probably be a little bit better overall. So I'm just checking out his draft profile right now to see what his testing numbers are. But honestly, Tariq Castro Fields was 6'1", 200 pounds, had almost 31-inch arms. He ran a 4.38, but that's the only thing he tested. So I guess he's faster tested than I actually saw. But
gotcha.
I mean, that I guess fits the bill, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, Jalen Watson is a freak in his own right. Really, you can't go wrong at this pick. I will just say this: if you want to play against the board, go another position and draft Tariq later. But kind of playing with fire there.
What other positions have maybe some good value here? Because I could see them doing this, honestly.
Yeah, so obviously interior defensive line, there's a couple dudes in here, Haskell Garrett, Thomas Booker. Those are
Yeah.
good guys. I don't think that's exactly a position to
I could
target.
honestly see them going for another defensive lineman, like,
Really?
because they lost Kamoko Toure,
Yeah.
they lost Al-Qadim Muhammad. Like, none of those guys were necessarily like major losses. Like, they're not
Mhm.
starters for you,
Yeah.
but they could use probably another guy off the edge because they brought back Taekwon Lewis. They have Yannick Ngakoue. They have Kwity Paye. They have Dayo Adangbo,
Mhm.
but they also lost Taylor Stallworth, who was your backup one tech. He
Yeah.
signed with Kansas City. So you don't really have right now necessarily that backup guy to kind of help that out. And,
Mhm.
you don't really know where all these guys are going to fit in. So I could see them taking, a flyer on maybe a later round guy here just to try to add a little bit more competition because
Yeah.
even after the Yannick Ngakoue trade, they were actually rumored to be on a couple guys like Melvin Ingram, for example, and some other guys like that. So I don't know how true that is, but Chris Ballard, I'll say this. One thing I know about Chris Ballard is
Mhm.
he feels like you can never have enough offensive and defensive linemen. And also
It's true.
speaking of that, I could see them going after some interior offensive linemen as well because their depth right now isn't great there.
Well, if that's the case, I'd feel a lot more comfortable going after Thayer Munford here, who's also played left tackle in case of
Okay.
injury as well. He was actually able to play at a very high level, but just maybe wasn't the athlete required to be able to play at a left tackle spot at a high level. To
Okay.
me, I think Thayer Munford is probably your best value here. Because again, if you want somebody to be your backup one tech, you got Neil Farrell Jr. as well as Marquand McCall, who's almost 400 pounds, just sitting here for you to take later on. Like that's easy. That's fine. Even guys who are freak athletes like Michael Clemens, Asezi Otamiwo, like these guys. I mean, Asezi's 280 pounds as an edge rusher. Like that's just the freak tweener. And even Alex Wright has his own merits to him. But I think the best value, hands down, is definitely going to be Thayer Mumford here.
All right, let's do it. Is he offensive lineman there?
Yes, interior offensive lineman out of Ohio State. He was able to kick in from left tackle last year, where he still played at above 90 PFF grade. So,
wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a good pick then.
Oh yeah, he's a seasoned veteran. I love him. Like he's a great value for the team. And even at this spot, this is where you can pick up a backup defensive back where we played against the board if you're fine with going Tariq Castro Fields here.
Yeah, I like it.
Let's do it. Yes, we hit 2 for 1 right there.
Boom.
Matt Ariza is still on the board. How badly we need punter.
I don't think they do. They got a guy. I like Rigo. He's good.
I know. I was joking. It's just, Matt Ariza is just funny seeing him on the board because this is the only punter ever listed on TDN.
Let's bring him in and have him go against Hot Rod for the kicking position. Why not?
Might as well, right?
Right.
Ooh, this is interesting. Okay, if you were willing to go after another defensive back, Kalen Barnes ran a 4.23.
Okay.
Like, I would definitely be putting him still in the equation. I'm going to speak my mind here. I think that going after a wide receiver as well wouldn't be a bad choice. Getting another wide receiver.
I agree. I think they will double dip at some point.
Yeah.
In this draft because they don't really have like a ton of guys with like they like a lot of their young guys, but those guys are later round picks, and you never know how those are going to pan out. So I would not mind at all with how deep this class is to go wide receiver again.
I think Kevin Austin, he's 6'2", 200 pounds, and he was like pretty much rivaling Calvin Austin at the combine for having the best agility drills. He can run a 4.4. The guy's actually pretty damn good overall. I think he's amazing value, especially in the 6. I have him actually. Let me see where I have him on my big board. I have him at 153. So,
okay.
For the value, it's absolutely ridiculous. To me, if you want to double dip, this is the time to do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Kevin Austin. I do love that pick. Big fan of him. It sucks not getting Kalen Barnes because, again, you can get potentially freaky dude to just sit for a year underneath Stephon Gilmore. But, we still got a really damn good athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gilmore has had some injuries recently. So, maybe need some more insurance there. They have 3 other guys behind Gilmore, but, you never know when one of those guys is going to need to be called upon, and all of a sudden they're very important for you.
Absolutely. Ooh, interesting. I'm surprised. So just behind the curtain, TDN literally as of like a day ago just probably updated their predictive board. So for me, this is all new. But again, if you're still looking to double dip, Mikael Wright, I think is a top like 150 player. Yeah, I have him as 106. So you can also see all my rankings right there. I have some dudes pretty high. But if you want to double dip, this guy, the only problem with him is his weight. He is about like 175, but I mean, he reminded me a lot of Tyson Campbell. When you watch him get beat, it's not like he's out of position. He just, like, with the right training in the right positioning, he can make plays. He could become a lot better as a DB just by having the little things fixed rather than the big issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And nobody better to do it than Ron Milos, the new DB's coach. I mean, this
Mm,
dude's been in the league 20 plus years. So
yeah.
yeah,
You find him
yeah, I
sending it
like it.
in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. This is actually a sick draft, not gonna lie. I really
Yeah,
do.
I'm really
Like,
digging it.
yeah, I was like, damn, okay. Well,
So how many
this
more
caught me
picks
off
do we
guard.
have here? It's hard for me to see where I'm at here.
Oh, we are done.
We're done. Okay.
Yeah, so we got
Perfect.
Bernard Ryman, Pierce, Woods, Munford, Fields, Austin, and Wright. So honestly, all these guys could actually be playing starting reps, which is a little bit creepy given the fact that that was a pick 216 and 240 on a championship level roster.
Wow.
So
That's
this is a
amazing.
pretty home run hit.
Yeah. Well, good. What grade would you give this mock draft 2.0 here?
Honestly, I'd be giving it an A. I mean, it
Okay.
would have been nice to be able to have a true tight end one. Jelani Woods is a little bit of a risk, especially for a win now team.
Yeah.
But you get insurance on the offensive line. Can never get enough of that.
Mhm.
Alec Pierce is an outstanding wide receiver too, because I think honestly Pittman can develop into a true one. And then
Mhm.
Ryman, I mean, hell, I never expect him to be there at 42, and he is. So, I mean, you got probably the second most valuable position on the field, let
Yeah.
alone the offense and the left tackle.
Yeah.
That's a pretty like you can't go wrong after getting your franchise left tackle right there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
And I mean, it was close. I feel like if Quiddy Pay wasn't there last year, the Colts might have taken, gotten their franchise left tackle last year in Christian Darrisaw. So
yep.
I feel like they're in the market for it, and obviously they brought back Matt Pryor, but I mean, the guy's on a 1 year deal, right?
Yep.
So for a reason, they didn't bring him back on a multi-year deal. They
Mhm.
don't know what their left tackle holds, and I think they gotta, even though they've told him he's going to get the first crack at left tackle, that doesn't mean you don't go address it, right?
Yeah.
You got to figure it out.
Yeah.
You got to protect Matt Ryan well, and and that's honestly the position right now that has the most question marks for the second straight off season. So yeah, I think left
Got it.
tackle certainly has to be one of the top priorities, and it's kind of just been swept under the rug a little bit. So if a
Mhm.
guy like Ryman's there, absolutely, I'll take him.
Yeah. No, big fan of it. Even the later round pickups, like Kevin Austin's gonna be a great situational guy. Fields
Mm,
and Wright have a chance to be able to truly develop under Stephon Gilmore, and I think both of them could legitimately start if given like if they had to be forced into action. So
yeah.
overall, I think I'm actually pretty impressed with how the board fell.
Yeah, it worked really well in our favor, I can tell for sure.
Yeah.
But awesome, guys. Well, let us know what your thoughts are on our mock draft 2.0. Obviously, check out Alex over there at Hail Mary Sports. Alex, I know you had a goal for draft time, certain amount of subscribers. I think you've smashed that since then.
Yes.
How many subscribers do you have now, out of curiosity?
So I have just under 4750, which my goal is 4,000 by draft day. So we
Huge
have
down.
blown that out of the water. Yeah, we were at 4742 right at the moment. So inching close. 4750 is going to be the big goal, which I think is accomplishable in a couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys haven't subscribed to Alex and Hail Mary Sports and all that stuff, go do that. We'd love for you to get to 5,000, man, before
Hell,
draft
I
day.
take
That'd be
that.
amazing.
I
So,
love that, man. I appreciate it.
yeah. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, well, appreciate you coming on, man. It's always fun, always a good time to be able to just talk some drafts, talk some Colts, and
Oh, yeah.
crazy. We're less than 2 weeks out now from the NFL draft. This Thursday, it'll be officially a week away from round number one. I don't know if the Colts are going to pick. I don't think they will, but you never know. Never say never.
Yep.
But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Let me know, let Alex know what your thoughts are, guys, on our mock draft 2.0. That'll do it for this one, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, go Colts.